Okay. Nomiki Konst, new investigative reporter for the Young Turks. I will not introduce you that same way every time, Nomi. Don't worry. Okay. How you doing?
I'm great. I'm thrilled. I'm like looking at my Twitter feed crying because I've never felt so honored and welcomed. And I gotta say, it is so refreshing to be part of a team that covers stories that matter and affect people's lives. So that's just refreshing coming from the world that I'm in to be able to have the freedom to do that. So thank you, Cenk, for everything.
Oh, no problem. And it isn't me. It was the audience, right?
That's true. Thank you all. And everybody on Twitter who's just making me cry all day long, which is why I'm wearing my glasses.
All right, great. Nomi, we had you go out there and cover Philadelphia on election day to see if there was going to be any shenanigans at the polls from the Trump people. It looked like there wasn't, but you did a great job covering that story. So, you and I talked a little bit about the stories that we might want to cover, everything ranging from pipelines to politics to donors to Trump, et cetera. Just give me a sense here of what you're excited to cover coming forward, and because everybody's asking, what are we going to do next? Where are we going to go? What stories are we going to uncover?
Well, I was thinking about this, and I actually asked Twitter about stories they want to see covered. And what I'm hearing from a lot of folks from the Young Turks audience that follows me is that they want to hear about stories that the Democratic Party is on the wrong side of, issues are on the wrong side of, why they're on the wrong side of that. We're talking about like charter schools and elder care, a lot of the stuff that we debated in the platform committee meetings where everybody watched the platform committee meetings at the DNC and said, wait, what? The Democrats are against funding elder care? They're against giving, food to the elderly? And, it's the stuff that goes against the principles of what our party was founded on. And then I'm also excited to cover, the politics. Donald Trump has so many conflicts of interests that I don't think we'll ever get tired of covering that stuff. But we have to hold people accountable. We have to hold our lawmakers accountable, our leaders accountable at this time, just because Democrats and progressives don't have a lot of seats in power. So it's our job as journalists to go out there and hunt down those stories that the corporate media is ignoring because it goes against their interests, their funding structure. So I'm really excited to shine light on stories that affect communities across the country, like what Jordan's doing in Flint right now. We've all been talking about Flint, but he's really digging in and saying, like, how did this happen? And I think that's what people want to know. How did we get into these situations? And I'm really excited to be part of a team that encourages that kind of work.
Yeah, and we're super excited to have you. So I mentioned to the audience earlier when we got past the 500,000 and hired you and Sean King to be a commentator, so that you were part of Bernie Sanders' platform committee. So when you guys went to the DNC to work out that platform committee, that you were part of his team along with Cornel West, Keith Ellison, all these amazing progressives, right? So, but in the beginning, you kind of switched over to the Bernie Sanders side. Why did you decide to do that, and was there any drama involved in that?
Oh my God. Yes. Uh, I was never on Team Hillary. I was asked, I think some people probably know this, I was asked to be part of her Ready for Hillary super PAC, 3 years prior to the election when they were building this shadow campaign for her. Very quickly, I realized it was kind of sketchy the way it was laid out. The people who were backing her were shutting. We all know this now. Were shutting other candidates out of the race. And I initially, when Joe Biden was considering running, I thought he was a great option, somebody that could talk to working people, understood the struggles of working people, had a great vision, can articulate what the party is supposed to be, but also understands the way the party's structured today. That was, over 2 years ago at this point, or 15 months, 16 months ago. And then I went on the campaign trail and just started covering the campaign and going to these rallies where 30,000 people were going to see Bernie Sanders in Iowa in January, 9, 10 months before the election. And no one was covering it. And I was going from these rallies, with Bernie supporters to a CNN newsroom. And I would sit there and comment on an empty podium of Donald Trump. What is Donald Trump going to talk about for a half an hour? We would just kill time while I was running from a Bernie rally where he's talking about income inequality, realizing that something was happening and that story was not being told. And after seeing the way that the caucus was run in Iowa, which Hillary lost Iowa in 2008, and they did very well. They controlled the Democratic parties there to make sure that those caucuses were controlled by the Democratic parties. And so when I saw that, it went against everything I believed in. I also ran for office, so I dealt with the Democratic Party and I felt the repercussions of what they do. So seeing that at the ground level and seeing the kind of support he had, I had to join the campaign and do everything I could.
Right.
So I quit my job and did that.
I saw that you were the youngest person to run for office among the Democrats when you were trying to fill Gabby Giffords' seat. So that must have been an amazing experience. You didn't wind up winning, but it's about the fight in you rather than whether you win or not in that particular case. What drove you to do that, and what did you learn from it?
Oh my gosh. Well, it's very rare that your hometown seat opens up. And so that in itself is a great opportunity to bring voices in that wouldn't normally be part of the process. We knew that it was going to be a big primary. And I thought, well, Gabby Giffords is my congresswoman, and I'm a young woman who, we might not agree on all the issues. I think I'm a little bit more progressive than she was. But for the most part, I saw the dynamics in our district shifting. So many young people were burdened by student debt. And this is 4 years ago, before Bernie Sanders entered the race. So we were trying to talk about these issues. The Democratic Party really did not, the local Democratic Party was not having it. They wanted me to kiss their rings, go run for school board. There was definitely some misogyny. I've written about this extensively. I think there's some good progressives in the Democratic Party in Southern Arizona. But again, they want to support the people that they wanted to support. They wanted to support the people that they knew were going to back them up, that they had long histories with. The problem is the status quo was just not serving Arizona very well. And we saw this because Bernie Sanders did so well in Arizona. And people were showing up at rallies there. And I in Tucson, where I am right now, with 50,000 people. And it blew my mind because those are the people I was talking to on the campaign trail, and they pushed me out of that race. So I think we're at a different moment now, though. And the reason why I mentioned that is Bernie opened up the space for people to run and be supported. It was a lot of convincing, a lot of groundwork, which you're still going to have to do, and fighting uphill battles with an establishment that just wants to shut you up if you're challenging them. So that'll still happen, but now there's this network of people that are going to support you along the way.
Yeah, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I believe that it was in, when you talk about those 50,000 person rallies, it was so stunning how the corporate media refused to cover it. Because, they're the ones that told us Bernie Sanders has no chance. So shouldn't they have been surprised and considered it interesting news that he could get all those people to show up at those rallies in ways that were completely unexpected? But yet in 2015, as he's doing the whole run up to Iowa, ABC News covered him for about 10 seconds. Mm-hmm. Or no, I'm sorry, 20 seconds. Whoa, 20 seconds. And I think they covered Trump for about 81 minutes. It was just unbelievable, the difference. And I think all of the news networks covered Bernie for about 22 minutes in 2015. They covered Biden for 56 minutes, and he wasn't even running. And not about his vice presidential thing, about whether he would run. It's just, the disparity is crazy. But Nomi, you're going to change that, aren't you?
I hope so. I hope that we're all part of this. My frustration being part of the mainstream media for the past few years, especially during the election cycle, was that you'd be put on these panels, or you'd watch these panels with 5 Trump supporters who have no experience in politics and are completely crazy. So they're propping up this crazy Trump message, along with Democratic operatives who currently had contracts with the Clinton campaign and were not disclosing them. And they'd have them on these panels, 6 or 7 of them that have been in this industry for 30 years, and they wouldn't have a Bernie person, and they wouldn't have other voices. So they wanted this good versus evil narrative for the entire campaign. And the problem is that it came back and it bit them in the asses because Donald Trump did win, and they helped create that. And Bernie Sanders, as opposed to every other candidate, including Donald Trump, who tried to run as a populist, the reason they didn't want him was because he was challenging the corporate model, which is what they're funded on. So of course they didn't want to talk about those issues.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. But we're not going to let them get away with it anymore. Counting Jordan as the first watcher on the wall, Nomi, you're now the second watcher on the wall. So let's keep him in check. And it's great to have you as a watchdog as part of our team on TYT. Thank you. Thank you to the audience for allowing us to hire Nomi. We appreciate it. And starting in January, let's go get him.
Thanks, Cenk. Thanks, Young Turks, and everybody who contributed and watched and was part of this last year of campaigning.
All right, great. Looking forward to seeing you on the road and looking forward to seeing you here in the studio when you're out in LA.
Thanks, Cenk.
Go get him. You know who's going to stop Trump, stop the establishment, stop the corruption? You are. You help us hire new investigative reporters, and we will unleash it on them. TYTnetwork.com/go. Let's build the best journalism team in America.